I hear the ticking of the clock.
Tick tock on the clock. Tick tock, you don't stop. To the tick tock, you don't stop.
It's Doomsday Clock.
Hey there, welcome back to Total Geek Live. This is Baltimore. I'm here with, as always, Guy, Danny, and Kaiser. And today we are bringing you the 10th installment of Doomsday Clock. That's this beautiful little comic that we got this week. Two pretty cool covers. I chose this one. But this has been, I think, a 2.5 month wait since the last release, which is, pretty terrible when you think about the release schedule.
Yeah.
And, in particular, this issue, when we get into talk about it, feels so disconnected from the other ones that in it picking up kind of after 2.5 months is really, really bad for the story. When it's collected, I think it's going to be fine, and you'll have the nice breather space that this issue delivers.
Right. Agreed. We've had that conversation before. It's going to read better once we get the whole thing in one.
Yeah. But let's go ahead and give her some quick thoughts before we do our, more in-depth little review on this. Doomsday Clock 10. Guy?
I like this panel where
really
he's like, pull my finger.
Oh, yes. They definitely did a lot of the original Watchmen comic flashbacks, especially that. I think that's like the first time we've seen Silk Spectre in this series.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Kaiser,
it's been 2.5 months.
Kaiser, you like the
there.
blue butt panel? Is that what you're saying?
No, he's all like, pull my finger. And she's like,
Okay.
That is an appropriate reaction.
Dr. Manhattan, lovable jerk. I genuinely liked this issue. I mean, there was that feeling of like, okay, what happened last issue? So I had to kind of like go back and look at that a little bit. But I actually like this issue. I think of all that we've seen so far, this is by far the most meta issue I have read, not only from Doomsday Clock, but from comics as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
It went deep dive in not only just the whole New 52 thing. It's gone all the way back to the entirety of DC Comics.
Mm-hmm.
1938.
April 18th, 1938. That is the origin date of Superman, the first appearance. So just how they blended everything and how they went through each of like the reboots, and you're used to it as a comic reader, but the whole concept of that being Dr. Manhattan tweaking all the way from day one is so trippy and brilliant and creative. I really loved that angle from that.
Danny?
Yeah, I was excited to finally see the black and white film that we've seen throughout, kind of just piecemealed here and there throughout the other issues, finally getting some answers to that. And it actually harkened back the whole part of him sitting with Dr. Manhattan throughout many different instances in time. It harkened back to one of my favorite parts of Neil Gaiman's The Sandman series, where Morpheus pretty much does a similar thing with an immortal named Bob Hodling or something like that. He's a human immortal who just lives forever and ever and ever, and he and Morpheus sit and they catch up once at a time at a specific location, like this. It was like a diner or something, and that's the place they meet every so often. I think it was every 100 years they made the agreement, and and have this conversation, well, how you're doing, and all that kind of stuff. So it was nice to kind of see that in this, incorporated into this, and then an interesting way of seeing Manhattan kind of figuring out the different things with the time and all that.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Yeah, so I really like this issue because it was so meta. And it actually, even though it seems kind of disjointed from the rest of the full run,
Mm-hmm.
actually ties up a lot of things. It ties up the black and white movie. Constantly throughout the series, Dr. Manhattan has referenced the Green Lantern and moving that lantern that 1 inch or 6 inches away out of his reach during the train accident.
Mm-hmm.
And that replicate, that kind of that instance is kind of this whole issue. Is him reflecting on that one action and the ripple effect it has and what it's meant, what it's done to the entire, not just this Earth, but every multiverse and all the multiverse stuff in this. How this Earth with this Superman is the center of the multiverse, and everything else, all the other multiverses are just ripples of this one, and any change in this core one changes all of them.
Yeah.
And like how this reality is so special, and why John was drawn here to even begin with was because of that. And I mean that's kind of the whole core of this issue. And then we won't go straight to the end, but I love the way this ends. The lines it ends with. I was just going to quote it, but I didn't want to misquote it and have people yelling at me in the comments that I'm stupid.
I find this issue really interesting in particular because it's like, for a character who declares himself so disconnected from humanity and everything to do with all the trivial anything that life itself has to do with, he's so deeply connected into this universe now. I mean, he can't pull away from it. He's drawn constantly to tinker and experiment and meddle, and well, finally he pissed Superman off. So we have gotten the reason for why this is eventually meant to be between these two.
Yeah.
Right, and that's exactly because the issue ends. Spoilers. We're talking here, of course. This whole issue is the calm before the storm. Basically, I think the next issues are just going to be bonkers.
They have to be.
With Manhattan going, I am a being of inaction on a collision course with a man of action. And to this universe of hope, I have become the villain. I'm like, holy shit. I mean, I got goosebumps reading that right now.
Right.
I mean, that right there is great writing.
Absolutely. I mean, yes, this issue is certainly meta, and I did find it very interesting to see how, like you talked about, Guy, how deep they dove into the recesses of DC history to kind of bring Dr. Manhattan throughout its iterations. Each time he meddled is because he wanted something closer to what he knew, which is why things got darker and kind of a little more gritty and that interesting little concept or ripple through each crisis and reboot and Man Up, whatever Burns reboot in the 80s was. And I liked how they actually placed it with the time.
I was going to ask if any of you actually went and aligned the actual dates mentioned with actual.
It's the release.
Yeah.
It's all released.
Because I started referencing.
Yeah.
Because I knew Superman was 38, but I was like, was it April 18th? And yeah, it was. I went and looked that up just to make sure. But
so the other dates, what are those specifically?
So it's John Byrne's reboot of Man of Steel,
86.
In the 80s, 86. And then it's the New 52 or the what was the one?
New 50.
Rebirth. But then there's also the one before it. I think it was.
You mentioned the one 5 years ago.
Well, there's one that's like Superman Birthright in the early 2000s, which I think they referenced in this as well. But it's nice how it was interesting to see how they kept, soft rebooting their continuity to make it more in line with the time. But I thought it was really interesting to see how Dr. Manhattan connected himself to all these events. And then just the nice callbacks to the actual artwork in Watchmen being replicated. I thought that was really, really great.
And I also I like seeing the Action Comics #1 artwork being kind of
Yes.
brought to life.
Yeah.
You know, the
Mhm.
iconic green car.
He's
Um,
lifting cars, and that reference was not lost on me.
yeah.
Right. Yep.
And then just talking about all the times that Ma and Pa can't have died, and then they're back, and then they die again, and then they're back, and then they die again. Yeah, so and then
And the
he's
different
responsible
ways
for
they
making them die
die.
one time.
Yeah.
So
And I liked seeing kind of the formation of the Justice Society of America and getting to see each character and their kind of
Yeah.
you get their names, you get their origin on a nice little one page kind of or one panel
Yep.
treatment of it, and then seeing them all together at the table
Mhm.
was really really neat.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then you get the really cool. You could, as soon as the timeline had altered, it's the same exact scene, but the wording's slightly different,
Yep.
and there's no mention of waiting for Superman. It's like you see the exact moments where John's meddling has affected the reality.
Yes. Yeah.
So
Uh,
I've got a question real quick. What did the actor do that his mother had over him that was worth killing? They don't answer
we
that.
haven't found out yet.
Do you think they'll wrap that up? Do you think it ties into the overall story arc, or is it just?
It has to.
Yeah, I really wouldn't be surprised if it didn't.
Yeah. In the same way that what was it, the Black Freighter?
the
The
comic,
original had a meta, commentary about actual Watchmen. This is going to have some sort of connection. Plus, John is interacting with him as well. So there's got to be more.
Well, because I wasn't sure if the whole tie-up was just the fact that it was John meeting with this actor and kind of guiding him along his career, took him from a nobody and gave him the insight to, land the roles that made him a huge star, and his last movie, and um, but the fact that when he died, he just stood by, he did nothing.
Yeah.
Being the man of inaction. When things happened, people died. He just sat and watched. He could have done something, but he. And
Well,
so I didn't know this.
I wonder about that actually, because he talks about how he's not able to actually tangibly operate when he first meets him, and of
Right.
course he meets him like every year, annually. So I can't remember if they actually said that he has now been able to interact with physical objects in the world, or if he's still working on it. Maybe that's why he never interacted or saved him.
I thought it was. I got the feeling it was more of a choice that
Yeah,
he could have done something and he just let it happen.
Yeah, I certainly see that. I was just curious, because they specifically talk about him not being able to interact with the actual.
The physical world.
Yeah.
I thought he just couldn't see the reality like he normally saw, but he couldn't actually physically interact with it either.
I think so, because I think
I guess that makes sense why he doesn't eat or drink anything when he's offered it.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, looking
A
through
moment
here.
when we stop and reread the issue.
Yeah, right.
we'll be back in 15.
And it's kind of the ironic thing of it. Manhattan says, yeah, he's a man of inaction, but he's been tinkering. That is action. And the title of this, particular issue is action, which I like. And so he's kind of fooling himself that he's a man of inaction. No, he is. He's been tinkering and screwing up with things, and that's.
Well, it's like that phrase, like, even inaction is an action. So
right.
Not doing something is, like you said, Kaiser, a choice. you know, he's acting on the choice to not do anything, to allow things to take its course or not. With the case of Green Lantern's Lantern, but yeah, I liked his interactions with Carver. I thought that were very interesting because we got a lot more obviously in-depth background about him and how his career developed and who his circle was in this issue. It's much more focused,
Right.
on that. So I liked it. I enjoyed that part.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I think Action was a very good name for this particular chapter. I mean, especially there's even the obvious low hanging Action Comics is
Right.
Superman's first appearance. So I mean, it
Manufactured,
has a lot of meanings.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, we have just 2 issues left. By the end of this year, maybe we'll get them all. That'd be high hopes. But
6 months. Can we do it?
but it'll be interesting to see how they tie in all these things that they've kind of left dangling in the air. The mime and the marionette,
Right.
Batman story focus, Saturn Girl. What else do we have? The Green Lantern stuff.
We have everybody on Mars.
Thunder. Yeah.
Lex Luthor and Lois. Firestorm.
And Ozzy.
Mm-hmm.
Ozymandias. What's.
And Silk Spectre and Night Owl.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah, or are they just, back in the Night Owl thing, getting it on again? We having that whole thing again?
Flames.
Yeah, the whole next 2 issues is just gonna be one long sex scene.
Oh, okay.
Flames of Love. The next issue.
I'd say I'd be surprised, but I really wouldn't be.
Yeah, they've got a lot to really wrap up in these next 2 issues.
Right.
I mean, I'm afraid, I don't know. At this point, I don't know what to expect. I don't want to be disappointed. I don't want them doing this slow build up and then it's like, oh crap, we have to wrap this thing up, don't we? And then just kind of like boom, and then drop it as a quick summary. And I've already gone through that recently. I don't need that again.
Right.
No,
So,
for sure. Yeah, it'll be interesting because you have just a certain amount of space to finish all these things up, and my understanding that this is supposed to have a really big impact on the DC Comics universe. So,
right, moving forward.
Right, so it's interesting to see. I mean, clearly they're setting up because Superman is the center of the the metaverse for DC. So it's setting them up for a big rippling effect from this. But it's kind of hard to see at this moment.
Seems weird to kind of set up another reboot now because so recently, like Bendis just jumped on board and kind of rebooted Superman.
Mm-hmm.
So, are they doing another big reboot?
Oh, please no. I like Rebirth. I'm
No,
okay with the Rebirth.
Yeah, my prediction is that no, they're not. That would be shooting themselves in the foot. I think what it may do is just cause some ripple effects into the existing continuity that's happening right now.
Like a lot of new status quo changes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, even with all these delays, how is it affecting the rest of the plans they have for all their titles going forward? I'm sure they've been like, okay, we're going to have all these things happen. Nope, they just delayed it by another 2.5 months. Okay.
Yeah, you got to figure out, padding your story. And
No, it's time for a clip issue where we all go back and remember that time back in whatever when we did that thing. Da 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 da.
They get locked in the freezer. And, hey, remember that one time?
Yep. Yep.
All sorts of filler issues,
Yeah.
inventory issues coming about.
The
Yeah,
Christmas
they should do a
in
fashion
July
where
issue.
make everybody in nice suits and outfits and gowns.
Yeah. Crazy. Well, I mean, I said before, and Guy, we've kind of gone back and forth on this. It's going to read much better as a full, 12-issue maxi series in one reading. Right now, getting it so piecemeal and so haphazardly, schedule-wise, makes it really difficult to appreciate the story for what it's doing and what it is.
Yeah.
The art's
Agreed.
amazing. There's never been an issue with that, and if you're taking time for that, I'm okay. it just makes it kind of challenging to be a current reader of this.
Because you forget
Yeah.
a lot sometimes.
Yeah. True.
Yeah, we're gonna have to do a recap episode before we do issue 12, and just
Next year.
We'll
Yeah,
have
just
our
do-
own clip show.
right. We'll just edit together previous
Yep.
11 episodes. It's
That's
not a bad idea.
Total Geek Live.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm stoked. I hate to see it come to an end, but at the same time, it needs to hurry up and end. I need to get on with my life. All this reading.
Just don't derp it. Don't quickly sum it up. Okay, we're done. On to the next thing. Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
And then they hug it out, and John creates his own universe where everything's perfect, and that's why he doesn't see himself anymore in that universe, because he removed himself from it and put himself in his own reality. And well, I just came up with that on the spot, but that makes sense.
He
That would
becomes
be
Papa
something.
Smurf.
He finally puts
So
on
you
some
know what?
pants.
See?
Puts the red hat on because the red of Superman kind of brings it inspires him, and he's like, I'm going to create a whole bunch of Smurfs, and we'll be in a village, and I will be their leader and provide them
And
wisdom and
he's
knowledge.
like Santa Claus with a beard. So
Yeah.
The Peo Cinematic Universe. The PCU.
Yeah, the PCU.
Yeah. PCU. Yeah.
The last issue would be them realizing they just had a wacky misunderstanding. It's both of them just like laughing, freeze frame, like one of those old 70s radio shows, like sitcom. Everyone just laughs it off.
Like a musical, they all just fall to the ground laughing.
Well, yeah. Well,
I'm
I think
diving and hope so at the same time. Subvert your expectations. That's what it's all about these days. That's pop culture, baby.
You have to.
God.
Well, I think that brings us to a close on Doomsday Clock 10. I think we still give this a very, ardent thumbs up.
Yes.
Issues are very good, very beautiful, and a lot of content in them too. We didn't talk about the extras at the end, but it's really kind of neat to have those additional kind of after credits information. I guess,
I would say that.
Kaiser, nobody can read that fast.
Yeah. But come on, DC, let's wrap this up and get this out pretty soon,
Before the end of the year, please.
Yeah.
So that's it from all those Total Geeks. Like, subscribe, and share this with your friends. Let us know what you think about the Doomsday Clock number 10 in the comments below. And we'll be back sometime with the 11th issue. That's all from us. It's all geek to us.
Bye.
Bye.
Hey, I'm not jaundiced anymore.
No, the yellow has started fading away.
You're no longer using the poop filter. It's great. Good for you. Good for you.
I hear the ticking of the clock.
Tick tock on the clock. Tick tock, you don't stop. To the tick tock, you don't stop.